live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show. Welcome to the FTN Bets Cast for Tuesday, May 31st here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players, and now you can win on Sleeper by playing in the new over-under game. It's super easy to play. So first, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like and pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So for example, tonight in baseball could be the thing like number of hits they get, number of singles, number of stolen bases, number of strikeouts for a pitcher, number of earned runs they give up. Then you're going to choose an amount of money that you want to put into that contest. If you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money if you go 5 for 5 and get them all correct. But the main reason why I'm excited about this over-under game on Sleeper, it is the only app where you can join with all of your buddies and play together. It has a built-in group chat where I can see what you're playing, you can see what I'm playing. We could all see what the guy in our group who's won 3 days in a row is playing, and we could all follow along. It's insanely fun when everybody's rooting for the same things together and trying to get the same things to happen so that we could all win some money. So stop what you're doing now and download the Sleeper app to play in their new over-under game. Have fun with your friends and make a little bit of money in the process. On your mobile phone, you can join our listener group on Sleeper at sleeper.com/FTNbets. And Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit up to $100. Again, go down in the description. You'll see it there. Sleeper.com/FTNbets and get a $100 match on your first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so see Sleeper's terms of use for the details. We had been talking about NBA basketball lately here on the FTN Betscast, but there are no NBA basketball games again until Thursday when the finals start up. So we're going to switch gears here and talk about MLB. Sleeper added Major League Baseball to their over-under game about a month or so ago. And today we're going to go through all the MLB games on the slate, talk about the spreads, talk about some of the player props that we're looking at, and talk about some of these over-unders that we might be able to play and make some money with on Sleeper. So let's start with the early game here today between the Detroit Tigers and the Minnesota Twins. Let's see. We got Ronnie Garcia on the mound. So here's what I'm really looking at. You know, Garcia is a guy with a 5.48 ERA and 42 major league innings so far. He's actually allowed more runs than singles so far in his career, giving up 11 home runs, 2.32 home run per 9, which is not very good. With that being said, the Tigers are an underdog, as they should be, even at home. Plus 125 is the best number you can get on them. You can get that over at DraftKings is the best number to play them at. The Minnesota Twins are the team that I would be on in here. You got to pay up a little bit for them, minus 142 to get on the Minnesota Twins side, but that is the side of this game that I think I would want to be on here. There is one player prop that one over-under that I'm looking at here, and that's going to be Max Kepler over 0.5 runs. It's even money on BetMGM, so this is one that I would rather play on the sports books. Just take it as a, prop bet over at MGM at plus 100. Kepler has a 125 WRC plus first right-handed pitching. Guys like Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton are interesting to me too, but the guy that I like the most here is going to be Max Kepler, and I do like that over 0.5 runs here today at even money on BetMGM. Next game we're going to talk about is the Kansas City Royals against the Cleveland Guardians. Let's see. We have Lynch on the mound for Kansas City. This is a guy with a 5+ ERA, 5+ xFIP, 118 hits and 107 innings in his major league career. So this is a guy who we should be looking to see if we can find some of these guys on Cleveland to get some hits against them. The problem is Cleveland doesn't really have a lineup that I'm all that interested in. The only thing that I'm really looking at here on the Cleveland side, I do like Jose Ramirez to get an RBI here, over 0.5 RBIs. This is like minus 130, minus 140 on the sports books here. So I think it's a good play for us to look at on the Sleeper app here today. This is a guy with a 159 WRC plus since 2020 versus left-handed pitching. So you expect Jose Ramirez to be on base. You expect him to hit well. And if there's anybody on base when he gets up, there's going to be a good chance that he's going to be able to drive in some of those runs. So I do like Jose Ramirez over 0.5 RBIs in this game for the Cleveland Guardians. On the mound for Cleveland is going to be Cal Quantrill. Let's see. He's been pretty, I don't know, he's been okay. We'll say it that way. Both righties and lefties hitting about 290 to 300 WOBA against him in his career. The one guy that I do actually really like here today is Bobby Witt Jr. for Kansas City. I have him over 0.5 singles. That is listed at minus 135 on DraftKings, BetMGM, and Caesars. This is one that I don't really love as much on the sports books at minus 135, but I do think it's a good one for us to play over on the sleeper app because, again, at minus 135, you're talking like a 56, 57% implied probability of this happening. I think that's a pretty good one to look at. So Bobby Witt Jr. over 0.5 singles. One thing I'm looking at here on the sleeper app. Next one we're going to talk about is the San Francisco Giants against the Philadelphia Phillies. San Francisco, an underdog. You can get them as high as plus 116 on FanDuel. Philly being the favorite in this game at home, minus 130 on BetMGM, PointsBet, Caesars, Unibet, Sugar House, and Bet River. So a lot of places you can get that minus 130 if you're interested in being on the Philly side. Pretty decent pitching matchup here. Jake Junis, who's been really good in 2022. 2.76 ERA, xFIP of 3.8. Those are both a lot better than his career numbers are there. So kind of kept me off of some of these Philly player props here. And then on the other side, we have Ranger Suarez. He was very good in 2021. He's actually been a little bit below average this year. There is one thing that's sticking out to me a little bit here. Against lefties, I always love Evan Longoria. 166 WRC plus first left-handed pitching since 2020. Over 0.5 runs for him. Minus 120 on BetMGM. Minus 123 on Caesars. I actually like this a little more on the sports books than on the sleeper app. There'll be some other sleeper app plays that we'll talk about where we can get guys that are more like a 60% implied probability or 58% implied probability of happening. This is a little bit lower at only a minus 120. You're talking probably around like 54, 55% there. But again, Evan Longoria has just owned left-handed pitching throughout his career. So this is a guy I don't mind, and he over 0.5 runs scored here today. I do think he's going to get on base, and I think there's a good chance that he is one of the guys that does score. Plus, I like the fact that this game is in Philly, if I'm not mistaken, and when the game is in Philly, when San Francisco is going from a very pitcher-friendly ballpark to a very hitter-friendly ballpark, that's usually when we want to try to take advantage of some of the hitter props on their team here. So let's see. The next game we can talk about, my New York Yankees taking on the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Jordan Montgomery on the mound for the Yanks, Noah Syndergaard on the mound for the Angels. And Noah Syndergaard is one of the guys I wanted to talk about here today. I watch Noah Syndergaard again. I live in the New York area, grew up around here, huge Yankees fan, but I also watch a lot of Mets games as well. And Noah Syndergaard a couple years ago was a guy that I just thought was an absolute stud. I just don't think we see the same Noah Syndergaard today that we saw back then. Looking at his numbers this year, just 6.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. This is a guy that had double-digit strikeouts per 9, was over a strikeout per inning. For his career, he's over a strikeout per inning. So for him to be down at 6.3, he's really not getting those strikeouts here. And that's one of the things that I like here. I like the under on 4.5 strikeouts for Noah Syndergaard today. It's minus 150 on FanDuel, minus 145 on DraftKings. At minus 150, this is a 60% implied probability that the books and the bettors are giving him to not get over that 4.5 strikeouts here today. So this is one of my favorite plays over on the sleeper app. Would much rather play it there. I'm not taking a minus 150 on the sports books, but if we can get something that's minus 150 with a 60% implied probability of happening, definitely something I'm going to be interested in on the sleeper app. So one of my favorite plays of the day, Noah Syndergaard under 4.5 strikeouts there. Let's see. The Yankees are a big favorite in this game. You can get them as low as minus 134 on Unibet. It's like minus 135 everywhere else. So Unibet's just getting a little cute today to try to be the one that pops in the screener. Let's see. The Angels, if you want to play them, plus 118 is the best number there, and FanDuel has that number. On the other side of this game against Jordan Montgomery, the only guy I'm really interested in is Mike Trout. Mike Trout over 0.5 runs, minus 130 on DraftKings, minus 135 on BetMGM. Montgomery has been very tough on left-handed pitching, but 312 WRC plus, 400 plus slugging percentage allowed to right-handed bats. And, Mike Trout, one of the best hitters in all of baseball, even if he's, not playing to the utmost of his ability, he's still well above average and definitely a good matchup here. So the next game we're going to talk about here is the Chicago White Sox taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Really good pitching matchup in this one. Lucas Giolito on one side against Kevin Gausman on the other side here. I mean, when I'm looking at this here, really the pitching props are the only thing that I have a little bit of interest in. Over 17.5 outs for Lucas Giolito, minus 133 on Caesars, minus 140 on BetMGM. He's done this now in 3 of his last 5 starts. So I felt like that was just a little bit too low on the number right there. So I like Lucas Giolito to go over 17.5 outs in this one. As for Kevin Gausman, the number that's standing out for him is actually under 2.5 runs. Minus 130 on DraftKings, minus 135 on Caesars, minus 140 on BetMGM is what we're looking at there for those numbers. The Chicago White Sox are a big underdog here. Plus 155 on DraftKings, you can get them at. That's a big number. They're down at like 130, 140 on some of the other sites. FanDuel has the best number on the Toronto Blue Jays, minus 164 on the Blue Jays. They have the lowest number on Chicago at plus 138. So it makes sense that they would also have the best number on Toronto at minus 164 in that matchup there. So if you want to play the White Sox, go over to DraftKings plus 155. If you want to play Toronto, minus 164. I like the Toronto side a lot better. So that minus 164 on FanDuel is kind of interesting to me. Next game, we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Boston Red Sox here. The Red Sox are a favorite here. You can get them minus 145 on BetMGM. Cincinnati Reds plus 120 on PointsBet is the best price for them there. Luis Castillo is on the mound for the Reds, and I am not as big a fan of Luis Castillo as I thought I was going to be earlier in his career. He really hasn't taken a step forward to me, and this is a really tough matchup for him, so I'm not really on that side. I do have a little interest in Michael Wacha here today, though. Under 15.5 outs is what I'm interested in. He's only gone over 15.5 outs in 2 of his 7 starts so far this year. This is minus 132 over on Caesars. Not only is it minus 132 over on Caesars, but you have the same under 15.5 outs over on the Sleeper app. So I think it's a decent play on the sports books at minus 132 because I do think it should be a better number than that, a higher number than that. And I also think it's a pretty good play over on the Sleeper app. So that would be one that I would be a little bit of interest in looking at there in this Reds and Red Sox matchup. So let's see. The next game we're going to talk about is the Washington Nationals taking on the New York Mets. Patrick Corbin on the mound for the Nationals, Trevor Williams on the mound for the Mets. Now, you would think that the Nationals would have an advantage here with that matchup, but Patrick Corbin has not been good in 2022, and he's going up against a very hot Mets lineup here. Pete Alonso, probably the guy who I think has the best chance to take advantage of him. 128 WRC plus versus left-handed pitching since 2020. 297 ISO as well for him there. He did hit a home run in his last at-bat yesterday. Him and McNeil, who were the 2 guys that actually profiled the best yesterday for the Mets, were the only 2 guys in the Mets lineups that didn't have a hit going into the last inning there. And then Pete Alonso led off with a home run to get his first hit of the game, and then McNeil made out to be the only Mets starter that didn't have a hit yesterday. Most of these guys had 2 or 3 hits and a bunch of runs scored. I forget what they finished with. I think it was 13 runs after the Alonso home run yesterday. So the Mets are swinging some hot bats right now going in to play the Washington Nationals, who are kind of struggling a little bit in this series. Let's see. On the other side of this game, Trevor Williams, 3.36 xFIP in 2022. Not really trying to pick on him today with any of the Washington Nationals bats. Not really looking to do a lot for him either. I mean, the Mets are they're like a minus 200 favorite on FanDuel and PointsBet here today. Again, like that's probably where they should be. I would say that they are probably 60, 65%, 66% likely to win, which is what that number is telling us there. So I really don't see any value there. You can get the Washington Nationals as high as, I think they're 168 on FanDuel. I don't know if they're higher anywhere else, but FanDuel has them at plus 168. Again, I don't have a lot of faith in them. I know Corbin's on the mound, but he's 32, 33 years old right now and really not as lights out as he was at his peak a couple years ago. So let's see. What's the next game we got here? San Diego Padres, St. Louis Cardinals. Blake Snell against Adam Wainwright. Another very good pitching matchup. Let's see. Blake Snell. I like the under 2.5 earned runs on Blake Snell. It's only his 3rd start of the year, but that's also one of the reasons why I like the under on 2.5 runs is I don't expect him to go very deep. Maybe he goes 5-6 innings at the most in this game here today. And again, he's still a pretty lights out pitcher. He's still got the K upside. I don't want to go too much into what he's done this year because, again, it's such a small sample size. His first start, I don't even think he threw that many pitches. His last start, he did go over 5, and Pitched really good through 4 innings. And then I think he gave up a home run in the fifth, put a couple guys on in the sixth, and they took him out before he finished the sixth inning there. And I kind of feel like that's the same thing that's going to happen today. Like I said, I don't expect him to go past 6 here today. He may even only go like 5 1/3, 5 2/3, depending on how everything goes. But again, he's still a very good pitcher. It's not like he's giving up 10 hits or, walking 5 guys. He's probably going to mow through this lineup. He's going to take a lot of pitches because he is a high strikeout pitcher. So he's going to go deep into a bunch of these counts here, trying to sit a bunch of these guys down, which is another reason I don't think he's going to go deep. But again, if he doesn't go deep, it also doesn't give him a lot of chances to give up a ton of runs. So I do like Blake Snell under 2.5 runs over on the sleeper app today. I think that's one that we can look at there. Let's see. Adam Wainwright on the other side of this game. I mean, listen, Wainwright, he's been doing it a long time at a really high level. Not really looking to take any of the San Diego bats against them. Not really much I'm looking at in terms of the player props there. San Diego is the underdog in this game. I actually like San Diego here. You can get them as high as plus 110 over on, let's see, is this on DraftKings? Yeah, on DraftKings, you can get them at plus 110. I think that's a pretty good place to play San Diego. I'd rather play the Padres at plus 110 than have to go, minus 125, minus 130 on the Cardinals here. Minus 125, the best price you can see. Bet MGM and PointsBet both have them at that minus 125 number if you are interested in going over there and getting some money down on that. Next game we can talk about here is the Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Chicago Cubs. Eric Lauer on the mound against us. So it's Lauer against Steele as the matchup here for Milwaukee versus Chicago. Listen, Lauer has been pretty much one of the young studs here in the league. Former first-round pick. In 2022, this guy has a 2.31 ERA, a 3.26 xFIP, and is striking out 10.6 batters per 9 innings. I mean, the one thing that I'm actually going to do here, I want to be on some of the unders on these Chicago Cubs guys. And the guy who's standing out to me is going to be Wilson Contreras. Under 1.5 total bases, minus 130 on DraftKings, minus 135 on BetMGM, going up against an absolute stud in Eric Lauer. Here's the way that I'm looking at this, though, is like, a lot of these guys is like 0.5 hits or 0.5 singles or something like that. I don't really want to do that. I think Lauer's going to pitch really well, and I think he's going to be able to limit this team. So if anything, I want to take something where I think I have the biggest advantage. A lot of those other things, minus 105, minus 110. The biggest advantage here, though, is Contreras under 1.5 total basis, minus 135 on BetMGM, minus 130 DK. So I like that one, but I wouldn't play it on the sports books. I like it better over on the sleeper app. Wilson Contreras under 1.5 total bases. Let's see. In this game, Milwaukee is favored even on the road, minus 130. That's pretty much a standard number. DraftKings, FanDuel, PointsBet, BetMGM, Caesars all have it at that minus 130 number. So you can play that at quite a few different places here today. If you want to be on the Chicago Cubs side of this game, let's see. What's the best number on the Cubs? Plus 114 on Unibet, Bet Rivers, and Sugar House. Plus 110 is everywhere else on some of the main books. So, again, if you want to bet on the Cubs, Unibet, Sugar House, Bet Rivers, plus 114. Best way to go there. Next game up, Colorado Rockies and the Miami Marlins. Herman Marquez is on the mound for Colorado, and I am not sure who is pitching yet for the Miami Marlins. So I didn't do too big of a deep dive in here, but I did want to tell you guys, if you're interested in finding out who I like in this game or who are experts over at FTN like in this game, get over to FTN Daily. Today is the last day that you could sign up for the FTN Fantasy package over on FTN Fantasy. You could go to FTN Daily, sign up for the baseball and football packages. You can go over to FTN Bets and get the all-season packages as well. And here's a little trick for you guys. When you're checking out, use promo code Benny, BENNY, and you could save 20% off on any of our packages. If you're not in our Discord yet over at FTN Daily, that's the best place to get any updates throughout the day on any of the MLB action from all of our experts, as well as all the articles, all the charts, and all the picks that are going on over there. So let's talk about the next game now, since we don't have too much to talk about in the Colorado game. The next game is the Houston Astros taking on the Oakland Athletics. Christian Javier on the mound for Houston. Another one of these young stud pitchers out there. 11.7 K per 9 so far in 2022. 2.43 ERA, 3.32 xFIP. The guy's been an absolute stud. I like him to go over 5.5 strikeouts here today. minus 135 on DraftKings, minus 137 on Caesars. Not only would I play this one on the sports books, but I'm also playing this one over on Sleeper. He's had 9 strikeouts in each of his last 2 games. And the thing that I really like about it is they've been building up his pitch count. So he's been over 90 pitches in each of the last games too. So he's basically on pace to be throwing 100 pitches, which is what a lot of pitchers go out there and throw here. So I think that we can get some strikeout upside here out of Christian Javier. Again, 5.5 strikeouts is the number, and I like the over. He's had 9 in each of his last 2 starts. I also like the over on the other side. This is a great pitching matchup. Frankie Montas is pitching on the other side. 10.3 strikeouts per 9 so far this year. 3.28 ERA, 2.86 xFIP. So he's actually even been unlucky to have a 3.28 ERA. It should be even better than that. But I like the over on 5.5 strikeouts for him as well. It's not as high as the number on Javier on the other side, but it's still minus 130 on FanDuel, which is a pretty good number. Minus 125 on DraftKings and Caesars as well. He's gone over 5.5 strikeouts in 7 of his last 10 starts. So I think we're getting a really good value here with Frankie Montas. I like the over on both pitchers in this game between Houston and Oakland. I do think Houston wins the game. Minus 132, the best number on them over on Unibet. Probably a little too rich for my blood. Let's see. The Athletics are plus 110. Plus 116 on FanDuel is the best number you can get on them. I mean, if I had to pick a side, I'd rather take the plus 116 on Oakland, but I do think Houston wins this game, and I do think these are fair numbers. So I'm not really looking to put money down on either side of the money line here. And that brings us to the last game, which is another one that's going to be tough to talk about here. Pittsburgh Pirates against the Los Angeles Dodgers. We have no idea, or at least I have no idea who the listed pitcher is going to be for Pittsburgh at this point in time. That's the 10 o'clock late game, and I'm doing this at like 9 o'clock in the morning. So we still have 13 hours today to figure out who that pitcher is going to be. But like I said, it makes it tough for me to talk about. I would expect the Dodgers to be a big favorite, but the Dodgers were losing to Pittsburgh when I fell asleep last night. I didn't see how that game ended up, but again, at the same point in time, minus 320, minus 350 even. That's the number on FanDuel. Like, I just don't want to lay minus 320, minus 350. You're giving them like an 80% chance to win. Maybe that is the percentage chance that they have to win, but you don't make money by taking minus 320s and minus 350. So we're going to avoid that one altogether. Julio Urias is on the mound for the Dodgers. 2.49 ERA this year, but his xFIP is 4.36. So he has been very lucky that it hasn't been worse than the ERA. I mean, he really hasn't been great. I know this is like such a good matchup. I mean, he's going up against the Pirates. The Pirates stink this year, but really, like I said, minus 320, not a number that I'm willing to lay. And until I know who the Pirates pitcher is, I've kind of avoided the player props here, although I do think we're going to get a weak pitcher for the Pirates and probably some good player prop opportunities for the Dodgers. Again, get over to FTN Daily. You guys can check that out. So before I go, we're going to do our sleeper play of the day. We do this all the time in the NBA. We're going to do it today in the MLB. And here's basically what you're going to do. If you guys go down to the description of this podcast, you're going to see sleeper.com/FTNBets. You sign up, you join our group, and you're going to get access to a 100% deposit match up to $100. Now, I always tell everybody, if you can afford the $100, take advantage of the full deposit match. Put $100 in, get the $100 in free money. You have $200 to play with. And here's what I would do with that $200 today. I'm going to go with the over on Christian Javier strikeouts at 5.5. And I'm going to go with the under on Noah Syndergaard strikeouts at 4.5. Remember, minus 150 on that Syndergaard play gives it a 60% likelihood of happening. Minus 135 on the Javier play gives that like probably about a 56, 57% chance of happening. Put those two things together with the $100 that we put in, the $100 bonus they give us. If we put it all on this play here today, we would get a return of $600, which would mean we turned our $100 out of pocket into $600 for a plus 500 payout on a day. You're not going to get that anywhere else in the industry, especially over on the sports books. So get over there to that sleeper app, sleeper.com/FTNBets, and join in with the FTN Betcast group, and let's all win some money together. And that is going to wrap it up for today's edition of the FTN Betscast for Tuesday, May 31st, here at FTN Bets, sponsored by Sleeper. Good luck today, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.